Thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, and of course subscriptions. I'm really excited because we're going to look at Buddhism and Shaolin Monks and Kung Fu. And as I was putting this thing together, and as you know me by now, I know it all looks very shambolic, but there is some thought that goes into this. I was thinking about culturally, we might know a little bit about Shaolin monks. I was thinking why this is. It might go, oh yeah, I know those kind of guys who wear those beautiful flame orange robes. I know a little bit about some of these martial arts. I might have seen it in a movie, might have seen it in on YouTube somewhere. But we kind of go, yeah, there is some sort of thing about that kind of connection between martial arts and some Buddhist monks. We may not necessarily know where it came from. That's absolutely fine. I didn't know till I was putting this together. But it's just really interesting. Another example of how religion can permeate into sort of popular culture. And we don't necessarily know even where it came from. But as you know, I love an origin story. And I thought what we'd do is just find out a little bit more about the origins of Shaolin monks and Kung Fu. Well, we need to go back to 540 AD and China, and the emperor decided to get some people to translate for him the Buddhist text, the Buddhist scriptures from Sanskrit, the original language, into Chinese Mandarin. No problem there. It makes sense if you want to understand a particular religion, or indeed anything else. If it's in your own language, it's going to make it far more accessible. But there was a slight problem, because the emperor thought that by doing this, he himself would achieve enlightenment and nirvana. And as you know from previous videos, the only way an individual can do that is through themselves. That's one of the fascinating things about Buddhism, is that you achieve that salvation or that sense of happiness, not through an external deity, but through your own will, as it were. And this was pointed out to him by a Buddhist monk called Tamo, T-A-M-O. And the mythology goes that he pointed this out to the emperor, saying, actually, no, this isn't the right thing to do. It's right and absolutely fine to translate the text, but you are not going to achieve nirvana. And they parted ways. Then it goes on the mythology that what happened is that he went on his way, Tamu, to try and find the monks, and he found them in the Shaolin temple. And Shaolin literally means new or hidden forest. Okay, new or hidden forest. I like to think of it as new forest. It's easier for me to say. And the monks weren't best pleased to see him, really, and so he toddled off to a cave. And then he had this, as we do in many religious stories, this extremely just bizarre but brilliant moment where the story is that he was able to sort of sit and meditate in this cave, and then through his gaze alone, he was able to bore a hole through the solid stone of this cave. But he went back to the monks, and he just noticed they were very, very weak from constantly writing all day. Again, not there's anything wrong with intellectual pursuits, but what he noticed is that, well, actually, they were just so weak physically and drained mentally. And that's another thing perhaps we might want to think about as we explore sort of Buddhism, and this idea of mental and physical strength. We often talk about athletes, don't we? Talk about how they're physically fit, but psychologically they weren't quite in the right place to sort of win or really achieve their personal goals. On the other hand, we see people with remarkable mental resilience who are able to overcome extraordinary physical challenges. And the two seems to go hand in hand. And Tamu wanted to rectify this. He said, look, we've got to do exercise to build up your strength. And so he gave them various exercises to do, some of them based on yogic traditions, and that's where we get this idea of this martial art started to develop. Now, we got to remember at the time is that there they were in this temple, in their little kind of sacred space. There were bandits around, there were wild animals, and certainly they would have needed this to kind of fend people off. And it wasn't just building up themselves physically and mentally, just as well to benefit themselves on their journey in Buddhism, but also literally to defend themselves. But I think that's really, really important to say a couple of things. Okay, Shaolin monks did not invent the concept of martial arts. It almost happened as a byproduct through the work of Tamu. But also, in any practitioners of the Shaolin way are never ever an attacker. They only do so, use martial arts as a form of self-defense. And what also really fascinated me is about how the movements that Tamu got the monks to get involved in are based on those on animals like tiger, deer, leopard. And I was thinking about the movie trilogy, the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. And of course, some of the characters in there, like the tiger and the mantis, are all based on those kind of movements. So it's an interesting, again, sort of cultural sort of mishmash of understanding of Kung Fu. But I think what's critical as well is that what do we learn about Buddhism and violence from this? Well, it's very, very important that Buddhism very much focuses on non-violence, and the Shaolin monks who practice Kung Fu should only do so in self-defense. But there is a little overview of Buddhism and Shaolin monks. I hope there's something for you to think about. As always, I'm very grateful for you watching, but most importantly, enjoy your learning.